Best Bits, BBC Local Radio, the things we've been talking about, the discussions over the airwaves, and some good tunes too. And there's another, Eternal, and I Want to Be the Only One. And you heard before that from the group trying to ensure that sea shanties don't die out in the south of England, along the south coast. But sea shanties themselves, I mean, how much do you know about their provenance? What were they all about originally? Author, sailor and student of maritime history, Rick Spillman, joins me now. Hi, Rick.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Thanks for joining us. Tell me about the role of a shantyman on a ship.
Well, sea shanties, there's a lot of discussion, debate, argument over where they originated from and what they were and so on and so forth. But basically, they were work songs on board ships, and they became very, very important in the 19th century. After a long period of intermittent warfare, there was a period of peace, and people took the guns off the ships, which meant they didn't need so many people aboard the ships to actually fight the guns, and now they only needed sailors. The ships got bigger and faster, and they didn't increase the size of the crews over the bare minimum. So the shantyman was the man who led the work songs that allowed the sailors to literally pull together. What became so important was it was a labor-saving device. At the same time, it made it much more pleasant to work. Some ships' captains were said, or at least according to Melville, that they wouldn't hire a sailor unless he could sing. And being able to, as they called, sing a rope was very important to the efficiency of the ship.
And what was the provenance of these tunes, these songs? Did the shantyman make them up, introduce them, or bring them with him to the ship?
A lot of them are very interesting because they come from, some are traditional and they can be traced back to the Middle Ages. Many were picked up in particularly the southern ports in the United States. The songs being sung by within the slaves who were acting as longshoremen, loading and unloading ships. So shanties themselves became this very interesting mix of African rhythms and structure, as well as traditional Celtic and also German and Scandinavian tunes and languages that all got mixed together. In general, people knew, the sailors were very often familiar with the songs, and then the shantyman's job was, in addition to just singing out loudly so everyone could hear him over the wind or the waves, he would also make up lyrics as he went along to keep things entertaining.
You see, this is what fascinates me, Rick, about these tunes, these songs, in that these ships would sail right round the globe. They would be crewed by sailors from countries right across the globe as well. Were they then not terribly specific to certain ports? If you sailed from Liverpool, would you sing certain shanties, or would it not matter because you would sail from Liverpool and you could end up in the West Indies, you could end up in Africa?
You know, very often there are lots of different shanties that you might hear from an English port, for example, that you could hear the same shanty with new lyrics in a West Coast port of the United States, or even from India or Asia.
Oh, that's interesting. So the tunes might stay the same, but the lyrics would all differ.
They often could. The other thing that's important about the shanty is, and it's actually what makes it so appealing to modern shanty, not listeners but also singers, is you can walk in and the songs tend to be simple enough and more straightforward enough that very quickly you catch on to what the lyric is, and you can be singing along. Usually the structure of a shanty, there are very, very many different types of shanties for the work being done, but the structure of the shanty was the shantyman sings a verse, and then the sailors sing a chorus and pull at specific and very obvious points in the song.
And I'm guessing at the point at which engines took over and you didn't need to persuade your rowers or your workers to pull or work a little harder, the shanties disappeared.
As soon, starting around, really, the interesting thing about shanties is, aside from the argument that they've been around for thousands of years, the first time that the word sea shanty appeared describing a sailor's work song was in the 1860s. We think that they definitely developed a few decades before that, but by the 1870s they're beginning to die out. Of course, the turn of the century, there were still 4,000 to 5,000 sailing ships wandering the globe. So there were still shanty singers, but by the early part of the 20th century, they were gone in their function as work songs.
Of course. It's a fascinating topic. Thanks so much for shedding some light on it for us this evening. That's Rick Spielman, author of The Shanty Man. Put links to Rick's website on our Facebook page and Twitter feed if you'd like to know more. Facebook.com/Mark Forrest Show, and just search Mark Forrest Show on Twitter. And